October 17th, 1943. Camp Aliceville, Alabama. 2:47 a.m. The mess kit trembled in his skeletal hands as the German prisoner stared at his first American meal. For 3 years in the Afrika Korps, he had survived on sawdust bread and ersatz coffee. Now, at 128 pounds, he faced scrambled eggs, bacon, white bread with butter, real coffee with sugar and cream, more food than he'd seen in months. When I was captured, I weighed 128 pounds. After 2 years as an American POW, I weighed 185. I had gotten so fat you could no longer see my eyes. This 57-pound gain, documented by a German prisoner, would be replicated thousands of times across American POW camps during World War II. While their comrades on the Eastern Front subsisted on frozen horse meat and Wehrmacht soldiers received meagre rations, these prisoners consumed generous American food, the same rations as US garrison troops, as mandated by the Geneva Convention. Over 425,000 German prisoners lived in camps throughout the United States, witnessing and experiencing a prosperity that would reshape not just their bodies, but their entire worldview about American capacity and democracy itself. When Rommel's desert forces surrendered in Tunisia in May 1943, medical examinations revealed an army in biological collapse. After months of failed supply lines and desert warfare, soldiers who had once been the Wehrmacht's elite were walking skeletons. The official Wehrmacht field ration, the Verpflegungssatz, promised substantial calories for combat troops. By winter 1942, these soldiers received a fraction of that amount. Their daily ration consisted of hard bread when available, often replaced with weevil-infested hardtack. Morning brought ersatz coffee brewed from roasted acorns, sweetened with saccharin. Midday meant small portions of tinned meat, usually horse or mule, extended with sawdust filler. Evening brought Dörrgemüse, dehydrated vegetables that expanded in the stomach but provided minimal nutrition. Dr. James Patterson, U.S. Army Medical Corps, examined German POWs at the Oran Processing Center in May 1943. His report documented widespread malnutrition, vitamin deficiency diseases, scurvy cases, night blindness from vitamin A deficiency, and edema from protein deficiency were common among the captured soldiers. The recovery began immediately aboard Liberty ships bound for America. These vessels, built at extraordinary rates during the war, carried up to 30,000 POWs monthly. The first meal at sea, beef stew with potatoes, white bread, butter, coffee with milk, exceeded a week's ration in Africa. Many prisoners vomited from the richness. Their stomachs couldn't process the fats after months of starvation. The contrast stunned even American medical officers. Lieutenant Colonel Harrison Matthews, observing prisoners boarding at Oran, noted, "These men looked like walking cadavers. Hollow cheeks, protruding ribs, many unable to climb the gangplanks without assistance. We had to begin feeding them carefully. Their systems couldn't handle normal food immediately." The 1929 Geneva Convention's Article 11 required that the food ration of prisoners of war shall be equivalent in quantity and quality to that of depot troops. For America, this wasn't mere compliance, but strategic doctrine. Colonel Edward Davison explained in a September 1943 memo, "Every well-fed German prisoner is potential insurance for American prisoners in German hands." The Office of the Provost Marshal General supervised this massive operation, establishing comprehensive administration documenting daily caloric intake, weekly menu rotations, medical examinations, and weight changes. The bureaucracy was staggering. Forms filed bi-monthly from each camp, inspections by Swiss delegates, Red Cross monitoring, all ensuring compliance. The standard garrison ration guaranteed each prisoner substantial daily portions: meat, bread, potatoes, cheese, butter, milk, unlimited coffee, real, not ersatz, plus fresh vegetables and fruit. The estimated caloric total ranged from approximately 3,000 to 4,000 calories daily. with supplements available through commissary purchases. German POWs could buy cigarettes, chocolate, beer, wine, soft drinks, and ice cream using scrip earned from labour or provided through Geneva Convention allowances. The systematic feeding programme required massive logistics. Camp quartermasters requisitioned food for thousands daily, coordinating with regional suppliers, managing refrigerated storage, maintaining kitchens that operated continuously. The scale exceeded anything the German military had attempted, feeding enemies better than their own troops. The most thoroughly documented case states, one German later recalled that he gained 57 pounds, 26 kilograms, in 2 years as a prisoner. This same prisoner provided vivid testimony. When I was captured, I weighed 128 pounds. After 2 years as an American POW, weighed 185. I had gotten so fat you could no longer see my eyes. Georg Gartner, a sergeant in Rommel's forces captured in Tunisia in 1943, became famous as Hitler's last soldier in America after escaping from Camp Deming, New Mexico, in September 1945. He lived under the alias Dennis Wiles for 40 years before surrendering in 1985. In his memoir, co-written with historian Arnold Kramer, Gertner described how POWs were amazed at how well they were treated, almost coddled with plentiful meals, which their own country couldn't even afford. Military chaplain Alex Funker, imprisoned at Camp Algona, Iowa, wrote, "We all were positively impressed by the US, and that we all had been won over to friendly relations with the United States." His post-war research revealed widespread substantial weight gains among fellow prisoners, with many gaining 40 to 60 pounds during captivity. The physical changes were so dramatic that repatriation officers documented cases of prisoners being unrecognizable to their own families. Captain William Burke, processing returning POWs in 1946, reported, "These men departed looking like professional athletes or successful businessmen, not defeated soldiers. Their families expected skeletons. Instead, they got men who looked prosperous." Camp Concordia, Kansas housed approximately 4,000 Germans across hundreds of buildings on 640 acres. The camp established an extensive educational program with hundreds of subjects, partnering with regional universities. Its multiple kitchens fed thousands daily, equipped with modern electric ranges, walk-in refrigerators, industrial mixers, and mechanical dishwashers, technology many prisoners had never seen. The camp's infrastructure represented American organizational capacity. Built in just 90 days, it featured electric lighting throughout, hot water systems, flush toilets, and central heating. Prisoners from rural Germany, accustomed to outhouses and oil lamps, found themselves living with amenities unknown in their homeland. Camp Hearn, Texas, nicknamed the Fritz Ritz by locals, held up to 5,000 prisoners who built elaborate recreational facilities. The camp's industrial kitchens operated around the clock, with central bakeries producing thousands of loaves daily. Prisoners established regional mess halls serving different German cuisines, using American ingredients to recreate homeland dishes impossible in wartime Germany. The camp's commanding officer, Colonel Donald Drake, implemented what he called calories for cooperation. Well-behaved prisoners received extra rations, access to special meals, and commissary privileges. The result was minimal discipline problems and maximum weight gains. Drake's reports noted average gains of 45 pounds per prisoner over 18 months. Camp Aliceville, Alabama, processed the Desert War's human wreckage with systematic efficiency. Commanders, witnessing skeletal arrivals, implemented graduated feeding protocols. The camp's medical staff documented remarkable recoveries, vitamin deficiencies eliminated, dental problems treated, energy restored. Within months, gaunt faces filled out and chronic diseases disappeared. Major Robert Harrison, the camp's medical officer, published a post-war study documenting the recovery patterns. His data showed exponential weight gain in the first 3 months, followed by steady increases averaging 2 to 3 pounds monthly thereafter. The most dramatic case he recorded was a prisoner who arrived at £109 and departed at £181, a £72 gain. Camp Papago Park, Arizona housed naval personnel who weren't required to work. They spent days in leisure, attending movies, reading and maintaining gardens. The camp became famous for the December 1944 escape of 25 U-boat officers who tunneled out, planning to float down the Salt River to Mexico. They discovered the river was dry. All were recaptured quickly, several surrendering when hungry. Even the desert offered less sustenance than camp kitchens. The disparity between POW treatment and civilian rationing generated intense public controversy. While German prisoners enjoyed military rations, American families navigated complex point systems and scarcity. Sugar, coffee, meat, butter, all restricted for civilians, while POWs received these items daily without limitation. Dorothy Mitchell of Topeka wrote to her congressman in 1944, "My 3 sons fight in Europe while German prisoners here eat steak twice weekly. I haven't seen steak since Pearl Harbor. My family's monthly meat ration is less than these Nazis eat in 3 days." How do you explain this to a mother? The government's response emphasized reciprocity, treating German prisoners well protected. American POWs' propaganda posters proclaimed, "Their good treatment ensures ours." Radio broadcasts stressed that 90,000 American prisoners depended on German compliance with Geneva standards. Yet public resentment simmered, especially when prisoners worked local farms and ate better than the farmers employing them. The racial dimensions proved particularly inflammatory. Black American soldiers, including Rupert Trimmingham, noted that German prisoners could visit restaurants where they were barred. Trimmingham's famous letter to Yank magazine described watching German POWs served in a Texas restaurant, while he, in uniform with combat ribbons, was directed to the kitchen door for takeout. This bitter irony, enemy soldiers receiving better treatment than American citizens defending their country, created lasting wounds. German prisoners themselves often expressed discomfort, recognizing the injustice even while benefiting. Several camp newspapers run by prisoners published editorials questioning American segregation, creating the peculiar situation of Nazi soldiers critiquing American racial policies. The POW labor program proved crucial to American agriculture while contributing significantly to prisoner weight gain. By 1944, over 300,000 POWs worked American fields, harvesting the crops that would feed both America and its allies. The program generated millions in revenue while providing prisoners with supplemental nutrition beyond camp rations. Farmers, desperate for workers, competed to treat POW work crews well. Morning meant farm breakfasts, eggs, bacon, pancakes, coffee. Noon brought hot meals delivered to fields, fried chicken, mashed potatoes, vegetables, pie. Afternoon meant cold drinks and snacks. Evening returned them to camp for another full meal. Combined intake often exceeded 5,000 calories daily. In Nebraska's sugar beet fields, prisoners witnessed mechanization that redefined their understanding of agriculture. Hans Dietrich, working near Scottsbluff, wrote, "One American farmer with machines accomplishes what required our entire village. The combine harvester processes more grain in an hour than we managed in a week by hand." Texas cotton operations employed thousands of POWs during harvest season. The work was grueling under blazing sun, but the compensation included unlimited water, regular meal breaks, and bonus food for high producers. Wilhelm Hartmann, picking cotton near Kaufman, gained 63 pounds in 14 months. "The Texas farmers fed us like prize cattle." One rancher said, "Can't get good work from hungry men? If only our officers had understood this." California's Central Valley presented the ultimate irony. POWs picked peaches, apricots, and oranges, eating freely while working. They watched perfectly good fruit bulldozed into pits when markets were oversupplied. Kurt Vogel wrote, "Mountains of oranges destroyed while my family survives on turnips. I begged to send them to Germany. The farmer explained it was economically impossible. This waste amid plenty broke something in my understanding of the world. Military medical officers tracked the biological changes with scientific precision. Major Thomas Richardson, Chief Medical Officer for the 8th Service Command, compiled statistics from 50,000 examinations between 1943 and 1946. His data revealed patterns that would influence post-war nutrition science. The recovery trajectory followed predictable phases. First month, digestive system adjustment, minimal weight gain as bodies learned to process fats and proteins again. Second month, rapid gain as systems normalized, averaging 8 to 10 pounds. Months 3 to 6, steady increases of 3 to 4 pounds monthly. After 6 months, gains slowed but continued, with most prisoners adding 40 to 60 pounds total. Health improvements paralleled weight increases. Vitamin deficiencies disappeared within 90 days. Scurvy cases recovered completely. Night blindness resolved. Dental health improved dramatically after treatment. Over 400,000 procedures performed on German POWs, from extractions to complex bridge work. Many prisoners received better dental care than they'd had in their entire lives. German physicians working in camp hospitals documented unexpected problems, conditions of plenty rather than poverty. Dr. Friedrich Hoffmann at Camp Butner noted, "We see diabetes emerging in men who survived on 1,000 calories, hypertension in soldiers who had low blood pressure from malnutrition, gout from rich foods. These are diseases of prosperity appearing in former prisoners of starvation." The psychological impact paralleled physical changes. Camp psychiatrists reported widespread guilt about gaining weight while families starved. Captain James Murray documented prosperity trauma, the mental distress of improving health amid homeland suffering. Prisoners expressed shame at their appearance, anxiety about explaining their condition to families, guilt about enjoying meals while Germany collapsed. Christmas 1944 presented the starkest contrast between American plenty and German poverty. While the Battle of the Bulge raged, while German civilians received turnip rations, American camps served holiday feasts that exceeded anything prisoners had experienced even before the war. Camp menus from December 24th to 25th, 1944, preserved in military archives, document extraordinary meals. Roast turkey averaging 1.5 pounds per man, glazed ham with pineapple, mashed potatoes with butter and cream, sweet potato casserole, green bean casserole, cranberry sauce, fresh baked rolls, multiple varieties of pie, ice cream, eggnog for officers, unlimited coffee and cocoa. Churches and civic organizations contributed beyond official rations. The Methodist women of Hearne, Texas, delivered 2,000 homemade cookies to Camp Hearne. Concordia's Lutheran congregation provided hand-knitted scarves for every prisoner. Even communities struggling with rationing shared their allocation with enemy prisoners, an expression of American generosity that prisoners found incomprehensible. Feldwebel Richard Steinberg described the scene. "We sat before this feast knowing our families had nothing. Men wept openly, not from joy but from the weight of contrast. How could we celebrate while Germany starved? How could we refuse this kindness from enemies? We ate in silence, each bite a betrayal and blessing combined." Despite extraordinary treatment, escape attempts remained minimal, just 2,222 attempts from 425,000 prisoners, with virtually no permanent successes except Georg Gartner. This 0.5% attempt rate was the lowest of any major POW population in modern warfare. The reason was simple. Camps offered better conditions than freedom. The Great Papago escape illustrated the futility. 25 U-boat officers spent months digging a 178-foot tunnel using spoons, hiding dirt in the volleyball court they'd convinced guards to let them build. Their plan to float down the Salt River to Mexico failed immediately. The river was dry. Within 3 weeks, all were recaptured, most surrendering voluntarily when hunger struck. Captain Jürgen Wattenberg, the escape leader, reflected decades later. We were ideological idiots. Inside the camp we had food, shelter, safety, even entertainment. Outside was desert, hostility, and certain recapture. We risked everything to escape from paradise into hell. It made no logical sense, only ideological sense, and ideology doesn't fill stomachs. Most prisoners recognized reality. Where would they go? How would they survive? Speaking limited English with German accents, lacking documents or money, in a vast country where every citizen was alert for escapees, the practical obstacles were insurmountable. More importantly, remaining in camp meant survival. Escaping meant returning to combat if successful, starvation if not. POWs working near factories witnessed production that shattered their understanding of industrial capacity. At Campbell soup facilities, they watched single production lines process more food hourly than German factories managed daily. Near Detroit's Willow Run plant, they observed B-24 bombers rolling off assembly lines every 63 minutes, faster than Germany could produce training aircraft. The psychological impact was devastating. Otto Kleist, an engineer from Krupp, worked near a steel mill producing 10,000 tons daily. We finally understood. This wasn't a war between armies, but between industrial systems. They could lose 10 tanks for every one they destroyed and still win. Mathematics made our defeat inevitable, regardless of courage or strategy. Agricultural productivity proved equally stunning. American farms yielded twice German rates per acre using a quarter of the labour. Mechanization allowed single farmers to cultivate areas requiring dozens of workers in Germany. Irrigation, fertilization, and hybrid seeds created harvests that seemed miraculous to prisoners from subsistence farms. The waste particularly affected prisoners. Mountains of potatoes left to rot because of oversupply. Grain burned to maintain prices. Milk poured into sewers when demand dropped. Franz Müller wrote, "They destroy food to stabilize markets while Europe starves. Only a nation of unlimited resources could afford such waste." We finally understood American power, not in their armies, but in their excess. Between 1945 to 1946, ships carried over 370,000 German POWs back to Europe. They departed America having gained collectively millions of pounds, living monuments to American prosperity returning to ruins. The contrast proved tragic on multiple levels. Returning prisoners faced devastated cities, starving families, and social tensions. Their healthy appearance marked them as different, privileged, somehow complicit with the enemy. Families couldn't understand how they'd gained weight in captivity while Germany starved. Communities resented their prosperity amid universal poverty. The physical reversal was swift and brutal. Military government surveys tracked former POWs losing 30 to 50 pounds within 6 months of return. Bodies built on American rations couldn't survive on German scarcity. 1,550 calories daily if fortunate, often less. The American weight disappeared, leaving men who looked older than when captured despite their captivity comfort. Heinrich Weber returned to Hamburg weighing 186 pounds, up from 134 at capture. 6 months later, he weighed 138 pounds. "The American body couldn't survive on German rations," he explained. "I gave my food to my children, lived on potato peels and stolen grain. Better to have known hunger continuously than to know fullness and lose it." Beyond physical nourishment, camps provided comprehensive education that would shape post-war Germany. Over 50,000 prisoners enrolled in courses ranging from agriculture to philosophy. Camp Concordia alone offered 300 subjects, with professors from nearby universities teaching everything from American history to automotive repair. The curriculum deliberately included democratic governance, free market economics, and constitutional law, subjects banned in Nazi Germany. Prisoners studied the Federalist Papers, Adam Smith, John Stuart Mill. They debated governance models, economic systems, and social contracts. The intellectual feeding paralleled physical nourishment, expanding minds while building bodies. Camp newspapers evolved from propaganda organs to democratic forums. Der Ruf, the call, circulating to 25,000 prisoners, published debates about Germany's future, democracy's strengths, and economic reconstruction. Its evolution from Nazi mouthpiece to democratic voice traced the ideological journey of its readers. Dr. Wilhelm von Braun, teaching physics at Camp Shelby while imprisoned, noted, "We had better facilities than most German universities. Laboratory equipment, textbooks, and academic freedom. Jewish professors who'd fled Germany taught alongside us without hatred. This generosity of knowledge, sharing education with enemies, revealed American confidence in their system." The Special Project Division's secret re-education program achieved remarkable success through demonstration rather than indoctrination. By 1945, 25,000 prisoners had voluntarily enrolled in democracy courses. They studied documents banned in Germany, discussed concepts punishable by death under Nazi rule. The program succeeded because it relied on evidence rather than propaganda. Prisoners saw democracy functioning daily. They experienced free speech in camp newspapers. They observed racial problems discussed openly in American media, self-criticism impossible in totalitarian systems. Every pound they gained was proof that democracy produced prosperity. Former Wehrmacht officers who'd sworn oaths to Hitler found themselves planning democratic reconstruction. Colonel Hans von Luck, veteran of Poland, France, and Africa, wrote, "We arrived as convinced Nazis. We departed as reluctant Democrats, not through brainwashing but through observation. Their system worked. Ours had failed. The evidence was in our expanded waistlines." Approximately 5,000 former POWs eventually emigrated to America, becoming citizens of the nation that had imprisoned them. Thousands more maintained correspondence with American families for decades. These relationships, born in extraordinary circumstances, created unexpected bridges between former enemies. The emigration process wasn't simple. Former POWs faced suspicion in Germany as potential American sympathizers and suspicion in America as former enemies. Yet many persevered, drawn by memories of prosperity and possibility. They settled across America, from Hans Werker becoming a physician in Maine to Georg Gärtner hiding successfully in plain sight for 40 years. Marriage created the strongest bonds. Despite regulations forbidding fraternization, romances developed through correspondence and work programs. Over 1,000 German POWs eventually married American women they'd met during or shortly after captivity. These families embodied reconciliation, former enemies united through love rather than conquest. The 1985 reunion in Austin drew 500 former prisoners returning with American-born children and grandchildren. Hans Werker delivered the keynote. "We came as enemies, left as friends. Arrived starving, departed overweight. Every pound gained was a lesson in democracy's productivity. Every meal a demonstration of freedom's fruits." The POW program's economics defied conventional warfare logic. Costing hundreds of millions, it generated nearly equivalent value in agricultural and industrial labor, essentially self-funding while achieving immeasurable strategic benefits. Each well-fed prisoner became inadvertent testimony to American strength, their expanded bodies proof of American capacity. The program achieved multiple objectives simultaneously. It protected American POWs through reciprocity. Germany treated American prisoners better than Soviet prisoners partly due to American treatment of Germans. It alleviated critical labor shortages, with POWs harvesting crops that fed both America and its allies. Most importantly, it transformed enemies into potential allies through demonstration of prosperity. Post-war analysis revealed the program's influence on German reconstruction. Former POWs implemented American agricultural methods, increasing German yields 30% within 5 years. They introduced American management techniques, helping drive the Wirtschaftswunder, economic miracle. Their experience shaped a generation of German leaders oriented toward American partnership rather than Soviet influence. Colonel James Patterson's 1947 analysis concluded, "We purchased future peace with present food." The collective weight gain, millions of pounds, represented American agricultural surplus converted into political capital that paid dividends throughout the Cold War. The German POWs, who gained £50+ in American camps, embodied World War II's deepest irony. While their homeland starved, they thrived. While their families queued for turnips, they chose between dishes. While their comrades died on the Eastern Front, they attended movies and played soccer. This impossible reality, enemies eating better than allies, proved strategically brilliant. Their physical growth testified to a profound truth. America could afford generosity even in total war. Democracy could feed even its enemies. Freedom produced plenty, while tyranny produced poverty. The £57 gain documented by one prisoner was replicated thousands of times, each pound evidence of American agricultural and industrial supremacy. In the final analysis, America's greatest weapon wasn't its armies or arsenals, but its dinner tables. Tables large enough to feed enemies, generous enough to transform warriors into witnesses, abundant enough to purchase lasting peace through temporary plenty. The German POWs discovered their true enemy wasn't America, but the ideology that had led them to war against such prosperity. Every pound gained was a pound of Nazi ideology lost, every meal a lesson in democratic productivity, every full belly testimony to freedom's capacity to create rather than destroy. They returned to Germany heavier in body but enlightened in spirit, carrying within their transformed flesh the seeds of reconciliation and memory of impossible generosity from a nation powerful enough to feed even those who came to destroy it.